Ophelia had always regarded me as her imaginary rival throughout her life. Every time the exam results came out, she would ask about my grades first. If I scored a few points higher than her, she would curse me in a low voice. When she heard that I was in a relationship with Caspian, she secretly confessed her love to Caspian. After being rejected, she became angry out of shame. Later, we went to different universities and I thought I had finally gotten rid of her. However, when she learned that I had succeeded in starting my own business, she imitated me to start a business too and soon went bankrupt. She attributed all her failures to me, ambushed at the entrance of my house, and stabbed me more than a dozen times. Reborn and back to the first year of high school, she vowed that she would definitely live a better life than me in this life. But I didn't expect that her strategy was to imitate every word and deed of mine in the previous life. Perhaps she had never heard the story of Dong Sure imitating She Sure. Reborn and back to the first year of high school. Mr. Lee, the bald teacher who I hated the most in my previous life, just entered the class and wanted to intimidate everyone. Don't think that just because you did well in the high school entrance examination, you will do well in the college entrance examination. Especially girls. They don't have the stamina to study math, physics, and chemistry. Many of them can't understand no matter how hard they study. Ophelia raised her hand high, got up and walked onto the podium without waiting for Mr. Lee to call on her. Teacher, you're wrong. You said that girls don't have the stamina to study math, physics, and chemistry. Do you have any evidence? Mr. Lee knocked on the lectern. I've been teaching for more than 10 years. My experience is the evidence. Ophelia retorted, Teacher Lee, just take our school as an example. For the senior 3 students who just graduated, the average math score of girls when they entered the school was 0.2 points higher than that of boys, and it was 0.5 points higher in the college entrance examination. The advantage was even more obvious. In the past 5 years, the average comprehensive science score of girls was higher than that of boys in 3 years, and in 4 years, the top science students in the college entrance examination in our school were girls. From the data point of view, girls don't lack stamina. Isn't your experience a bit biased? Ophelia stood straight, looking at Mr. Lee with burning eyes. The sunlight shone in from the window and the light gathered on her. All the students in the class, both boys and girls, began to applaud for her. Mr. Lee stood there awkwardly. After a while, he said, Your name is Ophelia, right? Well, study hard in the next few years. The teacher will wait and see. Do you have anything else to say? If not, you can go back to your seat. But Ophelia didn't intend to let this topic pass lightly. She raised her head, with pride and rebellion all over her face. Teacher Lee, if the girls' scores in the college entrance examination are also higher than those of boys when we graduate, can you take back your prejudice against girls and never say such things again? Mr. Lee and she stared at each other for a few seconds and finally looked away and said, Okay. The whole class began to cheer for Ophelia. Caspian, the young master of the Jing circle, kept his eyes on her for a long time. He was my fiancé in my previous life. Ophelia walked down the podium like a hero returning in triumph. But only she and I knew that this kind of applause had belonged to me in the previous life. Ophelia said that she would definitely win over me in this life. Unexpectedly, her strategy to win over me was to copy every move of mine in the previous life. She refuted Mr. Lee just like I did in the past and instantly became a celebrity in the class. She also copied my speech from the previous life and ran for the position of class monitor and won. She even began to imitate my dress style in the previous life. I knew that she wanted to attract Caspian's attention. Ophelia had been secretly in love with Caspian for many years, but he always kept people at a distance and claimed that he was not interested in falling in love. Until the gossip that he liked me came out. Ophelia finally summoned up the courage to confess her love to him. But she was rejected by Caspian. She asked unwillingly, Then what kind of girl do you like? Caspian smiled shyly, a mushroom haircut, with bangs, black-rimmed glasses. That is, a girl who is very smart, studies well, and has a cool personality. That was me. After being reborn, Ophelia cut off her long ponytail, combed a mushroom haircut with bangs, and put on flat black-rimmed glasses. Unexpectedly, she really thought that the reason why Caspian liked me was my fashion style. After school, only Ophelia and I were left in the classroom. She looked smug. Caspian looked at me 17 times this afternoon. Your fiancé is going to fall in love with me. I also noticed that Caspian was looking at her. At that time, I didn't understand. I thought that he liked me in the previous life because of who I was. I didn't expect that his preference was for mushroom haircuts and black-rimmed glasses. But I also vaguely felt that something was wrong. In the previous life, his feelings for me didn't come so quickly. I remembered that when I just entered the first year of high school, Caspian just thought that I was a show-off troublemaker. He came from a traditional family, and his family education required him to be low-key, decent, and humble. He couldn't announce his goals before achieving them. Unlike me, I blatantly shouted as soon as I entered the school. I would get the first place in the monthly exam and show Teacher Lee the strength of a strong female lead. He thought I was childish and scheming, and even a bit me. He invited all the classmates to his birthday party except me. But I liked him. It was probably the kind of physiological liking mentioned on the internet. Whenever I saw him, I couldn't help grinning stupidly and wanted to get close to him to smell his scent. So I confessed my love to him. I showed up at his doorstep with a small gift and asked him why he didn't invite me to his birthday party. He didn't expect that I would ask such a straightforward question. Taking advantage of his daze, I tiptoed and planted a kiss on his lips. Caspian, I like you. I've wanted to tell you for a long time. If you also like me, you should tell me. Of course, he didn't accept my confession. But later, I became obsessed with physics and pestered the senior who won the gold medal in the physics competition to ask questions every day. Caspian blocked me in the corridor and asked me if what I said at his doorstep still counted. But I didn't think too much about emotional matters. After all, I was reborn not to engage in female rivalry or fall in love. After school, I went straight to the barber shop and had my mushroom haircut extended into long, straight black hair. I took off my glasses and put on contact lenses. Now, no one would confuse me with Ophelia. Unexpectedly, the fact that I changed my hairstyle caused a big stir in the school. Someone posted a thread on the school forum, "Is there a new transfer student in class 3? I declare that she is my goddess." The attached picture was a photo of me after having my hair extended. There were countless replies, "So beautiful. I want to be her desk mate. What's her name?" Finally, someone recognized me. "She really looks like Serafina." Did Serafina have her hair extended? I jumped out and admitted, yes. I, who had been unknown in this life, suddenly became a campus celebrity. The next day, the classmates from the neighboring class gathered at the entrance of our class, wanting to see what I really looked like. The sports committee member, who was carefree in character and had called me brother yesterday, was actually a bit shy when talking to me today. Even Orion, the senior who had tutored me in the physics competition in the previous life, also stared at me for several seconds when he came to deliver materials to our class. Only Caspian remained indifferent. When he passed by me, he always looked straight ahead, as if looking at me one more time would infect him with a virus. In the school beauty selection on the forum, I was far ahead with a high number of votes. But Caspian commented below, "I think Ophelia is more beautiful." The classmates all thought that the young master of the Jing circle was blind. Ophelia was very smug. "What's the use of those people liking you? Can they give you resources when you start a business?" She didn't understand even after living 2 lives. The reason why I could succeed in starting a business was not relying on men. It was because of my excellent technical strength and my keen insight into the market. In my previous life, I devoted all my energy to studying. Only when I lived this life again did I find that besides studying, there were too many things worth doing. On the morning of the weekend, I accompanied my grandfather to the chess stall under the big tree and watched him modestly say, "I'm just SOSO," after winning a game. I finally waited for the swindler who specialized in selling healthcare products to the elderly and called the police directly. In my previous life, my grandfather's liver failed after taking his medicine. I dug out the big bottle of Coke that my grandmother secretly hid under the bed and was about to throw it away on the spot. My grandmother was extremely distressed. It cost more than 10 yuan. I scared her, if you get diabetes, it will cost thousands of yuan to inject insulin every month. Your skin will also fester, and wounds won't heal. You might even have to have your limbs amputated. She was so scared that she threw the Coke away by herself. In my previous life, all the words that scared her became true. During dinner, my father and mother were discussing, the sales volume of this company's products has increased so much, but why doesn't the stock price rise? Could there be any hidden problems? I immediately recognized that it was the company whose stock price had soared 20 times after my father sold it in the previous life. He had judged correctly, but he just didn't have enough confidence in his judgment. Thus, I missed the opportunity to become a rich second generation in vain. I asked my father, why are you sure that it will rise? My father talked about his research results. He had counted the delivery trucks at the factory gate and also asked the security guards about the operating rate. Moreover, that company was in a semi-monopoly industry, and its profit margin was guaranteed. My mother, who was an experienced accountant, nodded repeatedly. I had studied for an MBA in my previous life. From a professional perspective, my father's analysis was also rigorous and convincing. I thought for a while and said to him, you have a house, a car, and no debts now. Even if you lose all the 200,000 yuan, it won't have any practical impact on our current quality of life, right? Seeing that they both nodded, I urged my father to delete the stock trading app and reinstall it half a year later, to prevent him from secretly selling the stocks when he couldn't resist. There are so many rich second generations in the world. I shouldn't be left out. The first monthly exam in the first year of high school came soon. On the day when the results were announced, Ophelia ran to ask the head teacher, Teacher, what's Seraphina's total score? Teacher Lin, the head teacher, avoided answering and only said, Ophelia, you did very well in this exam. You're the first in the grade. What about Seraphina? That's Seraphina's privacy. Ophelia was unwilling and went to rummage through my desk to look for the score sheet. You only ranked 20th in the grade? You've regressed. She looked at Caspian, who was walking in with a basketball in his arms, with a look of certainty and said to me, Seraphina, I'm the smart girl in this life. I didn't expect that her obsession with Caspian was so deep. In the previous life, when Caspian rejected her confession, he said that he liked smart girls who studied well. After that, Ophelia began to study day and night. She studied until 1 o'clock in the morning every day, got up at 5 o'clock, did 2 hours of exercises, and then went to school. There were always piles of tutorial books on her desk. She didn't participate in any extracurricular activities and she would be impatient when others talked to her. Everyone regarded her as a weirdo. She became more and more withdrawn, and Caspian's eyes never lingered on her. Even later, he didn't invite her to his birthday party anymore, for fear of disturbing her study. But Ophelia had never got the first place. Once, when she heard that I got the first place in the grade again, she actually tore up her own test paper in public and stomped on it. The classmates all thought that she had gone crazy and were even more afraid to approach her. In this life, she finally surpassed me as she wished. However, she didn't expect that apart from saying she was pretty on the forum at first, Caspian had no intention of pursuing her. When she took the initiative, he kept his distance instead. In the physical education class, the boys were sweating profusely on the basketball court. After making a three-point shot, Caspian lifted his shirt to wipe off the sweat, revealing his lean waist and abdomen. The classmates watching whistled. Then he realized what was going on and pulled the hem of his shirt down. Ophelia squeezed through the crowd of onlookers to the side of the court, poked him on the shoulder from behind, and handed him a bottle of mineral water. Oh, Brother Lou, got a girlfriend? Are you publicly showing off your love and making us single people jealous? There were all sorts of teasing shouts around. Everyone knew that giving water on the basketball court was the privilege of a girlfriend. Ophelia's face blushed. Unexpectedly, when Caspian turned around, he said coldly to his teammates on the court, "Don't talk nonsense." He pointed to the red water bottle by the court and said to Ophelia in a gentle and polite manner, "Thank you. I brought water with me." I'm not sure whether Caspian likes Ophelia or not, but I'm certain that he doesn't like me. He showed his defiance towards me in the Sonda class and almost hurt me. In my previous life, when Ophelia stabbed me, I saw her draw the knife. If I had been a bit quicker, I would have had a chance to avoid it. But I wasn't fast enough and didn't have enough strength. After being reborn, I decided to practice Sonda. I wasn't particularly gifted, but I worked extremely hard. 2 weeks later, the coach said that I had mastered the basic movements and could practice with other trainees. The person who practiced with me was Caspian. When he saw me, he was stunned for a moment and then frowned. He didn't bother to hide the hostility in his eyes. He seemed to be facing an enemy on the battlefield, using all his strength every time he punched or kicked. I held the shield, and my arm hurt from the shock of his strikes. I was forced back all the way to the wall. Suddenly, he launched another fierce attack and finally, I lost my balance and fell onto the soft mat behind me. The coach couldn't stand it anymore. "What are you doing, Caspian? I asked you to get familiar with the moves, not to take advantage of your physical strength to bully a girl." My arm cramped, and the pain made my tears flow uncontrollably. I burst into tears without caring about my image. "Caspian, if you have something against me, just say it. What's wrong with you?" He looked at me coldly. "I won't let you hurt her." I said that I just wanted to protect myself, but he didn't believe me at all. After wiping away my tears, I realized that one of my contact lenses had fallen out because of my crying. So I simply took off the other one, put on my glasses frame, and tied my hair up again. Caspian was stunned. He looked at me for several seconds and finally couldn't help asking, "Serafina, have we met somewhere before?" I asked for a few days off from school and went back to T University to meet my tutor from my previous life. When I arrived, Professor Lin was teaching a professional course to undergraduates. Waiting at the back of the classroom, I heard her passionate voice echoing in the corridor. At the age of 18 in my previous life, I was infected by this passion and pestered her until I was exceptionally admitted to her project team. Calculating carefully, she should have just obtained the qualification to be a master's supervisor at this time. She was young and had a promising future. However, because she hadn't become famous yet, the school didn't allocate many resources to her. After class, I stopped her. "Professor Lin, I want to join your project team." She refused me without hesitation. I explained that I was proficient in programming and had taught myself professional courses, so I was capable of doing research work. But she still didn't mean to let me join the team. "Student Serafina, it's good that you're interested in scientific research. But this project is only open to undergraduates." I had no choice but to use my trump card. "Professor Lin, is your project team short of equipment? I can provide funds. Is 1 million yuan enough?" In my previous life, the artificial intelligence project she presided over started 3 years before I entered the university. However, this project was very costly, and she had never applied for enough funds. So in the initial few years, the project remained at the theoretical stage. It wasn't until the year I entered the university that artificial intelligence became a key area supported by the state, and then she applied for sufficient funds. In this life, money was no longer a problem. The stocks selected by my father increased 20 times as expected within half a year. I took out the lucky money I had saved since I was a child and asked him to help me buy 50,000 yuan worth of stocks. So, I earned my first million yuan in the second semester of my first year in high school. Hearing that I was willing to invest in scientific research, Professor Lin was moved. "Come on. Write these programs, and I'll check your basic skills." During the week when I didn't go to school, I was extremely busy. I woke up at 6 o'clock every day and took the subway straight to T University. I got to know the senior brothers and sisters in the team, purchased equipment for the laboratory, and also participated in first aid training according to Professor Lin's requirements. During this period, both Caspian and Ophelia sent me countless WeChat messages. Caspian: Serafina, why didn't you come to school? Did I hurt you? Can I go to see you? Please reply if you're okay. Serafina: I'm sorry. I won't do this again next time. Ophelia was very irritable. Where have you been? Serafina: Where have you been? Why didn't you go to school? Did your grandpa die again? Reply to me quickly. Ophelia and I were competing for the first place in the grade, but I had never taken it to heart. However, when she mentioned my grandpa, she touched my bottom line. It was time for me to give her a warning. In my previous life at this time, my grandpa died of liver damage after taking the healthcare medicine promoted by a swindler. At that time, I didn't go to school for several days. Ophelia swaggered into the morning hall. I asked her what she wanted, and she waved her hand indifferently. I thought you were having extra lessons with a famous teacher. It turns out that someone in your family died. Then I'm relieved. Even the neighbor aunt couldn't bear to hear that. Is that how you talk? You're so ill-mannered. Ophelia turned around and left, cursing the aunt. Asshole. Looking back, those days should have been the highlight of her previous life. In that monthly exam, it was the only time Ophelia surpassed me in the 3 years of high school, and it also became the best evidence for her to think that her strength was on a par with mine. In this life, Ophelia came to my home again. My grandpa was watering the flowers at the door and greeted her with a smile. Are you Serafina's classmate? Wait a moment. I'll go and call her for you. Grandpa went inside the house, leaving us alone. Ophelia narrowed her eyes. Oh, this old thing is still alive. I clenched my fist in my pocket. Come with me. Don't you want to know where I've been these days? I took her to the alley in the back street. There were no surveillance cameras here. Ophelia, today I'll teach you how to talk properly. I grabbed her by the collar, clenched my fist, and punched her in the face several times. Her blood got on my hands, and she started crying and shouting. I took out the smelly rag under the old bicycle seat and stuffed it into her mouth. Wipe your mouth and keep your words clean in the future. Since she had been targeting me all the time, I decided to beat her until she admitted defeat. Her glasses were broken, her nose bridge was crooked, her school uniform was torn, several tufts of her hair fell out, and her tears mixed with the blood flowing from her nostrils and flowed into her mouth together. I asked her, Ophelia, can you talk properly? She nodded hurriedly. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. It turned out that she was just a bully who was afraid of the tough. I pulled the rag out of her mouth and watched her lean against the wall and vomit violently. Ophelia, tell me, whose family member died? She sobbed and admitted, it's me, someone in my family died. Stop hitting me. You're going to beat me to death. Only then did I realize that Ophelia, who was so ruthless when she killed me, could have such a cowardly moment. How ridiculous. It was just some superficial injuries. Perhaps she had never seen so much blood before except on the day when she killed me in her previous life. It turned out that only when the blood flowed out of her own body could she feel pain and fear. Behind me, a young voice full of hatred for evil rang out. Didn't you say you wouldn't hurt her? It was Caspian. The afterglow of the setting sun shone from behind him. I couldn't see his expression clearly, but I just felt that there was a lifetime between him and me. In my previous life, after I died, my soul drifted in the air for 2 or 3 years. I watched the people who loved me cry bitterly for me. I wanted to comfort them but couldn't do anything. They couldn't hear my voice. I watched Caspian lose control of his emotions and then gradually calm down. I thought he had finally started a new life. But just when I breathed a sigh of relief, Caspian came to the small river where we had our first date and fell into the riverbank in the middle of the night. He was rescued by a fisherman. I thought he could survive, but the doctor announced that he had drunk alcohol and taken a large amount of cephalosporins. He was trying to commit suicide. In this life, Caspian, at this moment, still had the figure of a thin teenager and extremely clear eyes of a teenager. I said to him, "Don't interfere in the affairs between me and Ophelia anymore. It would be better if he stayed as far away from both of us as possible." However, as a 16-year-old teenager who couldn't tolerate any injustice, how could he allow campus bullying to happen? He coldly walked around me, picked up Ophelia, who was covered in blood, and put his own school uniform on her. From that day on, he escorted her to and from school and regarded me as a dangerous and evil person. After that, I seldom went to school. My mother helped me ask for a long leave from the school. I don't know what she said to the principal, but anyway, the school agreed. I only needed to go to school 1 day a week and take the school exams regularly. So, I lived a life shuttling among home, university, and the gym every day. At this moment, the wave of artificial intelligence hadn't emerged yet. Neither the academic community nor the business world was sure whether those wonderful ideas could really be realized. However, as a person reborn, I knew that this wave would rise vigorously in a few years. After the equipment was in place, Professor Lin immediately released recruitment information. She was about to recruit more people. However, due to her limited fame and the small amount of project funds, not many people signed up. I went to the undergraduate department of University and found the members of the project team in my previous life: senior sister Sherry, senior brother Quentin, and senior brother Ryan. I persuaded them one by one to make sure that they all submitted their applications and were selected by Professor Lin again. The main research focus of our project was AI industrial robots. Traditional robots can only replace humans to complete repetitive tasks that have been set in advance, but they can't troubleshoot and deal with emergencies by themselves. If a screw gets stuck, the entire production line will be halted, and workers have to come to solve the problem. But AI robots can think independently. They can, like humans, learn to remove the broken screw and then find a new one to screw it on. Although we had successfully developed this kind of robot in my previous life and I remembered several key technical points, but the progress of the project wasn't as smooth as I had imagined. The other members didn't have memories of the previous life and I didn't understand many details of the parts they were responsible for. There was a lot of work that needed to be done from scratch. I'm really busy with my work in the laboratory and Ophelia isn't idle either. After getting beaten last time, she still wasn't reassured. She was afraid that I would secretly work hard behind her back. So she came to follow me again. When I saw her, I was buying nails in the building materials market with my senior schoolmate Sherry. Ophelia tentatively asked, "Have you dropped out of school and become a contractor instead?" I nodded indifferently. She didn't give up and followed us all the way back to University. Then she was stopped by the security guard. Beside the security booth, Caspian was standing there. Obviously, Ophelia didn't expect that I would ask him to come. She hastily hid the darkness and meanness in her eyes and put on a gentle and submissive look like a delicate flower. I smiled at Caspian. "I don't know what's going on with Ophelia. She was beaten up by me last time, but she still keeps getting close to me. Why didn't you stop her a bit?" Ophelia's face looked very ugly. I wondered how she was going to explain it to Caspian. In the following weeks, Ophelia was always nervously inquiring about my movements. It wasn't until the next monthly exam that she let down her guard against me. She left everyone far behind and got the first place in the grade. As for me, for the first time in my 2 lifetimes, I dropped out of the top 50 in the grade. I hadn't touched my high school textbooks for a month. Teacher Lee, who teaches math, humiliated me in front of the whole class. Some students are always aiming too high. They can't even learn the knowledge in middle school, yet they claim to participate in the research project of University. Am I right, Serafina? I put the test paper into my school bag. Teacher Lee, the principal approved my leave. If you have any objections to this decision, you can go and talk to him. I'm leaving now. I still had to go back to the laboratory to fix bugs. Unexpectedly, Ophelia chased after me out of the classroom and asked me in surprise, "Did you manage to get involved in that research project in your previous life?" Since Teacher Lee had already mentioned it, there was no need to hide it from her. I nodded. Does it make sense? Ophelia asked me. Caspian hates you so much. No matter how well you do in the project, you won't be able to get the investment from the Liu family. I said indifferently, then don't bother yourself about it, top student. I didn't even bother to tell her that in my previous life, the Liu family invested in my project not because of Caspian's preference for me. It was because my technological achievements were valuable to their enterprise. The robots we developed could replace workers to complete dangerous operations, reduce production costs and cut down on accidents. At that time, our team received thousands of investment intentions from all over the world. They all wanted to get a share in this grand technological transformation. I gave this opportunity to the Liu family just because I loved Caspian. That's all. In the blink of an eye, the project had been going on for over a year. The progress was much faster than in my previous life, but there was a core problem that couldn't be solved all the time. In my previous life, it was Senior Ryan who had a sudden inspiration after a breakup and rewrote a certain section of code, and then the model could run successfully. But at this time, he was 3 years younger than when he participated in the project in the previous life, and hadn't met the girl who made him stay up all night writing code to relieve his broken heart after the breakup. This time, I thought of Orion again. He was my senior in high school who tutored me for the physics competition in my previous life. Now he's studying at T University. He's the smartest person I know and has the broadest way of thinking. Maybe he could bring some new progress. Professor Lin took a liking to him at first sight. Looking at the test code he wrote, she kept praising, "What a genius." A genius that T University hasn't seen for many years. Orion's ears turned red from her praise. I've been so busy since being reborn. I have to work on the research project and can't neglect my fitness either. I know that once my project succeeds and gains social recognition, Ophelia will definitely think that I've stolen her limelight. She'll be jealous and take action against me. In this life, I must have the ability to protect myself. Outside the huge floor-to-ceiling windows of the gymnasium, the sky was filled with the glow of sunset. It was already time to finish school. Only then did I notice that Caspian had come. He was standing at the door, quietly watching me hitting the sandbag. I asked him, "Why didn't you send Ophelia home after school today?" He said, "There's a parents' meeting today. She stayed to share her learning experience." I took a look at my sports watch and always felt that the date was a bit familiar. Then I remembered the chaotic fight that happened on this day in my previous life. I immediately ran towards the school. "Serafina, what are you doing?" Caspian chased after me without knowing why. When I ran to the school gate, he became even more nervous. With a long stride, he blocked my way. "Are you going back to the school to beat someone up?" I didn't have time to explain. Panting, I said to him, "Go to the rooftop and find Lilac. Don't let her jump off the building." He was stunned for 2 seconds, then chose to believe me and strode towards the rooftop. In my previous life, at the parents' meeting, as the first in the grade, I stayed to share my learning experience. After that, I leaned against the wall of the corridor, waiting for my mom to go home together. Suddenly, I heard bald Teacher Lee say, "Parents of these students, please stand up." I saw several parents hesitantly get up. Teacher Lee got angry at them. "Why are all of them my students? Serafina got the first place in the grade, while your children are at the bottom of the ranking. Think about it. Have you taken responsibility for your children's grades? Have you fulfilled your responsibilities as parents? If your children can't learn well, you should find a way to solve it. Tell me one by one, how do you plan to help your children improve their grades?" The parents who stood up stammered, and the parents who were sitting felt extremely uncomfortable. The tall man in the front row hunched his back, lowered his head, and began to apologize to Teacher Lee in a low voice. Teacher Lee said arrogantly, "I can't hear you. Speak louder." In the corridor, Lilac, who was waiting for the parents' meeting to end with me, bit her lip tightly, with a desperate look on her face. That was her father. He was wearing a shabby cotton padded jacket, pitifully admitting his own faults and accepting every word of humiliation from Teacher Lee. I said to Lilac, "Teacher Lee is an idiot. Wait for me. I'll go and scold him." I rushed into the classroom. "Dear parents, you may not know that Teacher Lee usually doesn't give lectures at all. Every time he has a class, he just asks the students to study by themselves while he smokes and makes phone calls in the corridor. After each exam, he forces the students with poor grades to attend the cram school he runs outside school, which costs 1,000 yuan per hour." Teacher Lee was so angry that he roared at me, "What nonsense are you talking about? Get out of here." I ignored him and continued, "I think all parents should think about finding a way to replace irresponsible teachers. Not every parent has the ability to tutor their children, but teachers do. It's just that Teacher Lee isn't willing to do it for free. Besides, Teacher Lee, my good grades aren't because of your teaching. I learned by myself. Don't use me as an example in the future." That day, Lilac told me that she had originally planned to jump off the rooftop of the school. Her family couldn't afford the money for the cram school. She thought that her existence had brought endless humiliation to her father. I watched the sky gradually getting dark and my heart was pounding. The moment I rushed onto the rooftop, I saw Caspian hugging Lilac from behind, who was about to climb over the railing. I shouted to her, "Don't jump. The teacher will be changed next week. Your father said you're his pride." As night fell, the three of us were gasping for breath heavily and silently shedding tears. When we went back to the classroom, the parents' meeting had already ended. Teacher Lee was talking about the price of the cram school with the few parents who stayed. Lilac's father looked extremely embarrassed. "Teacher, I'll try to find a way. It's my fault. I don't want to delay my child's future." Teacher Lee said impatiently, "It'll be too late if you delay any longer." Then, Lilac's father went to ask Ophelia, "Classmate, could you please spare some time to tell Xiaomei your learning experience? You're so outstanding." Ophelia said coldly, "I don't have any experience." But when she saw Caspian walking into the classroom, she suddenly put away her indifferent look. She pointed at Teacher Lee angrily. "Teacher Lee, don't you know that extracurricular tutoring is illegal?" Ophelia noticed the distrust in Caspian's eyes. She had excellent execution ability. Soon she collected evidence and got Teacher Lee suspended by the school. She also took the initiative to offer to tutor Lilac. As expected of someone who had attended high school for 3 more years than others, under her tutoring, Lilac's grades improved rapidly. Lilac's father didn't know how to thank her enough. He not only wrote a letter of praise to the school but also invited journalists to publicize her good deeds. But this couldn't solve the doubts in Caspian's heart. After school, he came to the Sonda classroom and asked me, "How did you know that Lilac was going to commit suicide?" I could make up an excuse to deceive him, but suddenly I thought that it was quite pitiful for him to be deceived by 2 people who had been reborn. It would be better to tell the truth, because I've been reborn. All these things happened once in my previous life. Actually, Ophelia has also been reborn. Caspian stood there in a daze. After a long while, he asked, "So the girl with glasses who had a story with me was you, right?" Since Caspian was very young, a girl would always inexplicably appear in his mind. She had a mushroom haircut and wore glasses, but he couldn't see her face clearly. He couldn't remember the past clearly, but he would always feel inexplicably worried about her. Until the first year of high school, when he saw Ophelia, the girl in his mind finally had a face. Caspian was a bit disappointed. He didn't have a special feeling for her. He used to think that there would be a romantic relationship between them. But when Ophelia said that I bullied her, and later when he saw with his own eyes that Ophelia was beaten by me, he still felt heartbroken. He thought that he had the obligation to protect her well. "Then why don't you believe her anymore?" I asked. He said, "I found that every time Ophelia did something good, she would subconsciously look at my reaction. I wasn't sure if I was just being overly suspicious. But at that parents' meeting, she didn't originally plan to deal with Teacher Lee's matter. She suddenly changed her attitude only when she saw me coming. That day I was sure that she was just putting on an act for me." "She was acting for you, right?" That also explains why she wore framed glasses even though she wasn't nearsighted. I nodded and admitted it. Then you should cooperate with her and keep acting, at least until she helps Lilac improve her grades. These days, Ophelia could be said to be in the limelight. The quota for being recommended to T University unsurprisingly fell on her. She was always the first in the grade and became a popular and kind-hearted internet-famous top student because of the news about helping her classmate. She could be described as having both virtue and talent. The journalist specially invited her mother for an interview. Ophelia's mother made a big fuss about introducing her educational experience and took the opportunity to put me down. My Ophelia has a classmate. They'd been in the same school since they were little. That girl got 2 points higher than Ophelia in the high school entrance examination. But after entering high school, that girl didn't even go to school. She said she wanted to participate in some research project. At that time, Ophelia was very worried that she couldn't catch up with her. I told Ophelia not to do those flashy things. The most important task for a student is to study. As a result, now Ophelia has been recommended to T University. That girl only got about 500 points in this mock exam, and she hasn't completed the project either. Ophelia obediently tugged at the corner of her mother's clothes. Mom, stop talking. She'll be sad. The host showed an approving smile and asked, then, Ophelia, what major do you want to study in university? And what do you want to do in the future? Ophelia showed a determined smile. I want to study artificial intelligence, let machines replace humans to work, and develop emerging industries for the country. There was thunderous applause from the audience. No one expected that a high school student could have such a high vision. Speaking of which, I really only scored a little over 500 in the mock exam. I hadn't done high school exercises for several years, so I felt quite unfamiliar when I saw them in the examination room. Fortunately, there was new progress in the project. One day at 3 o'clock in the morning, my cell phone kept ringing. Ryan and Orion were flooding the group chat, saying that the problem that had been stuck before had been solved. I quickly got out of bed and took a taxi to T University. When I arrived at the laboratory at 4 o'clock in the morning, the other several people had already arrived. Without much ado, we ran the program and let the robot execute the instructions for sorting goods. This kind of task is simple for humans to do, but for robots, different goods of the same color are easily confused. Moreover, every time new types of goods are added, robots have no previous experience as a reference and are prone to making frequent mistakes. In the final analysis, existing machines can hardly make independent inferences and decisions and adapt to new situations like humans. But our robot managed to do it. The robotic arm operated dexterously, successfully picking out more than a dozen unseen commodities from the basket, moving them to the designated positions, and stacking them neatly by category. There was no lag, no omission, and no mistake. The laboratory was silent for several seconds, and then there were deafening cheers. We finally succeeded. T University is a famous institution of higher learning across the country, with strict access control. It's very difficult for ordinary tourists to enter the campus for a visit. After Ophelia obtained the recommended admission qualification, she finally got the opportunity to enter the campus. The first place she came to was our laboratory. On that day, several of us students were not there. Professor Lin didn't know the grudges between her and me. He just regarded Ophelia as a high school student with potential who was interested in AI and enthusiastically showed her our robot. Ophelia, give it a few instructions and see if it can understand what you mean. Ophelia was a bit surprised and tentatively gave the instructions. The robot, as required by her, raised its right arm for a while, pretended to faint for a while, and picked up the paper ball on the ground for a while. Ophelia skillfully led the conversation. Are robots so smart now? If this is used in industry, I don't know how much manpower can be saved. Professor Lin had no guard against her and said, yes, we are already in the process of docking with some factories. Ophelia immediately became vigilant. She knew that once this achievement was recognized by society, I would surely become very famous. At that time, her status as a recommended student of T University would be overshadowed. After all, there are thousands of students at T University every year, but only a few have succeeded in starting businesses. She came up with an idea. Professor Lin, could you give me a book list in the direction of artificial intelligence? I want to study by myself in advance. Professor Lin was very appreciative of her. Wait a moment. I'll go back to my office and get it for you. You can play with the robot as you like, but don't touch the server beside it. Professor Lin didn't expect that as soon as she went out, Ophelia locked the laboratory door from the inside. It happened to be a long holiday at that time, and the other members of the project were not in town. When I rushed over in a hurry, Professor Lin had just found someone to pry open the lock. Ophelia was still tinkering with the machine. Professor Lin shouted anxiously, "What have you done? Didn't I tell you not to touch that machine?" Ophelia ignored her and looked at me smugly. "Serafina, guess what I've just done?" The robot was lying on the ground. I gave the instruction for it to stand up, but it didn't move at all. When I got closer, I saw that many parts of the robotic arm had been removed by Ophelia, and its legs had also been smashed. Professor Lin nervously checked the server and found that the background code had been completely deleted. In just 1 hour, Ophelia had turned the fruit of our 2 years' hard work into a pile of scrap iron. That was our robot number 001, the treasure of all of us. I was so heartbroken that I burst into tears. Ophelia, if you want to do research, you should work hard on your own. Why do you have to ruin other people's achievements? I didn't compete with you for the first place in the grade, nor did I fight with you for the recommended admission quota. I've been concentrating on my research and haven't harmed any of your interests. Why are you targeting me? Why did you delete our code? My sadness gave her great satisfaction. She curled her lips and said, "Serafina, I just don't like the look of you. It's useless for you to be anxious now. I've deleted the code completely and it can't be recovered. However, I've already backed it up for you. Then I'll find a few doctoral students to form a new team and release this technology in my name. Do you think the Liu family will invest in me based on my relationship with Caspian?" Her words made me feel so disgusted that I took out my cell phone and wanted to call the police. But Ophelia took out a knife from her bag and held it against Professor Lin's neck. "Dare you call the police? If you do, I'll stab her to death." A few days later, our middle school held a coming-of-age ceremony for all senior 3 students. The city's leaders, outstanding alumni representatives, including business representatives and Caspian's father, all attended the event. Ophelia gave a speech as an outstanding student representative and was in the limelight. Even the mayor had heard of her deeds of being helpful and praised her for having the ambition to devote herself to science and technology at such a young age. It was really remarkable. Ophelia, you can compete with another classmate in your class and learn from her experience. Presumably everyone doesn't know yet that the artificial intelligence project that Serafina participated in has signed a big order with foreign countries and is expected to contribute a lot of tax revenue to our city. The principal was both surprised and happy, but Ophelia was flustered. She couldn't figure out how this big order was signed when she had smashed the robot and deleted all the core code. These days, I had been pretending to be out of sorts every day. This made Ophelia complacent, thinking that her acts of smashing, looting, and burning had brought us irreparable damage. However, for those who do research, backing up data is an instinct. Even for robots, we had made several spares. Moreover, most of our code was stored in the cloud, and the data she stole accounted for only a very small part. As long as she knew a little bit about technology, she could see that the code she stole couldn't run at all. But Ophelia didn't understand technology. She thought that she had already half-stepped into the club of business talents. So, every time she saw me, she would taunt me. "It's no use being impatient. It's your professor who's stupid. By the time you rewrite the code, my company will have already gone public. Why don't you just prepare for the college entrance examination honestly? However, you haven't done any exam questions for 3 years. It would be good enough if you can get into a third-rate school. You'll never catch up with me in your life." She even leaned half of her face closer and said, "You must still want to hit me, but do you dare? I'm the most favored student in the school now. If you dare to touch a finger of mine, the principal himself will send you to the police station." At the senior 3 coming-of-age ceremony, the principal found that his most favored student was someone else. The mayor waved to the audience with a big smile on his face. "Student Serafina, please come to the front of the podium." Student Serafina is usually too low-key. "Please introduce your research project to everyone. How did you and your team develop a robot with such excellent performance?" After my introduction, the mayor looked at me with even more admiration and asked if it was possible to visit our laboratory. I said regretfully, "I'm afraid it's not possible now. Our robot was maliciously damaged and it will take a long time to repair it." The mayor's face darkened. "Who's so bold? Those who hinder the progress of science and technology must be held strictly accountable." I handed the hard disk to the staff and asked him to help me project the video on the screen. Ophelia's face appeared on the big screen. All the students in the school saw that Ophelia smashed the robot hard on the ground, breaking 2 legs of the robot, and then picked up a screwdriver and roughly removed the robotic arm. She opened the window and threw the removed parts from a high altitude. While throwing them, she muttered to herself, "Serafina, let's see what you can be proud of now." She then went to the server, transferred the key data to her own cloud, deleted all the local code, and formatted the machine. In the school auditorium, everyone witnessed Ophelia saying to me in the laboratory, "It's no use being impatient now. I've deleted all the code cleanly and it can't be recovered. However, I've already backed it up for you. Then I'll find a few doctoral students to form a new team and release this technology in my name. Do you think that with my relationship with Caspian, the Liu family will invest in me?" Ophelia also said, "Serafina, I just can't stand the sight of you. Dare you call the police? If you call the police, I'll stab her to death." In the school auditorium, there was an uproar. When Ophelia was vandalizing and stealing, she surely didn't know that even if our robot was damaged, its eyes would faithfully record every move of the vandal. The server was connected to the network, and Ophelia's actions of deleting, modifying, and stealing the code had already been recorded in the background logs and synchronized to the cloud. The video ended. Caspian's father severely reprimanded Ophelia. "What's your relationship with Caspian? Has our Liu family ever recognized you? When will it be your turn to integrate the resources of our Liu family?" Ophelia wanted to escape to the audience but was stopped halfway. The mayor was furious. "Do you know that you've broken the law? And you still want to run away? You said you wanted to devote yourself to science and technology, but what happened? It turns out that you went to steal other people's achievements. At such a young age, you've become an academic cheater. Principal, have you called the police? Your student even dared to stab people with a knife. You recommended her for admission without examination? What's going on?" The principal sincerely admitted his mistake and ordered his subordinates to call the police immediately. He admitted that the school had been negligent and hadn't noticed Ophelia's moral flaws. The school would immediately contact T University to withdraw Ophelia's recommendation for admission without examination. The senior 3 coming-of-age ceremony ended hastily. The city leaders told me that they would definitely help me seek justice. The country's development of new quality productive forces urgently needs outstanding teams and technologies like ours. I thanked them repeatedly and invited them to visit our laboratory in a few days and introduced other members of the team to them. Ophelia stared at me viciously from the side. Several teachers stood around her to prevent her from escaping. Everyone was just waiting for the police to take her away. The classmates who usually admired her now avoided her like the plague. Only Lilac came to see her. "Ophelia, I've always wanted to thank you for reporting Mr. Lee. I didn't have the courage to do it myself. Thank you very much for taking the time to tutor me. My math score has improved a lot this semester, and it's all thanks to you." Ophelia sighed and said to no one in particular, "It's a pity that it's of no use. So you finally admit it?" Caspian appeared in front of her. "You said that Serafina was jealous of you and bullied you. At first, I felt sorry for you. But you've been lying to me all along." Serafina never regarded you as a rival at all. It's you who's been jealous of her all the time, right? You tried every means to get close to me and played the victim in front of me. It turns out that it was all for my family's resources. Ophelia, you really make me sick. Ophelia looked at him quietly and said in a low voice, "No, I really liked you." Caspian didn't believe her. "I don't like a rat in the gutter like you. Since things have come to this, let's start a new game." Unexpectedly, Ophelia broke free from the two teachers who were guarding her, smashed the principal's porcelain cup on the corner of the table. She picked up a sharp piece, grabbed my shoulder, and stabbed straight at my carotid artery. But she was no longer my match. I grabbed her wrist and twisted it hard, and the porcelain piece fell to the ground with a clang. She was in so much pain that tears streamed down her face. Several teachers rushed over and pinned her to the ground. "You still don't know you're wrong. You still want to commit violence?" Ophelia lay on the ground, raising her neck unwillingly, like a beached fish. I squatted down beside her. "There's no next game. Just stay in prison and serve your sentence." When I got home, Grandpa was watering the flowers at the door, and Grandma had cooked my favorite braised pork for me. Grandpa said to me, "Baby, don't overwork yourself. We don't expect you to become famous. As long as you're safe and happy, that's enough." Grandpa had a big smile on his face. The sunlight shone on his face, bringing me a lifetime of warmth. After graduating from high school, I was recommended to T University because of my outstanding scientific research achievements. Caspian went abroad to study. Ophelia was sentenced to a long prison term for stealing commercial secrets and attempted murder. Lilac was admitted to a key university. One day in my freshman year, senior brother Orion and I went to a factory in the suburbs of Beijing to discuss cooperation. When we came out, I was surprised to see Caspian waiting for me by the roadside. "Oh, why did you come back to China?" He raised his head, and thousands of emotions welled up in his eyes. Based on my 2 lifetimes of experience, that look in his eyes definitely didn't belong to an 18-year-old teenager. I was rooted to the spot. "Is it you? Have you also come back?" Caspian asked me gently, "Do the words you said at my door that you're still count?"